You know, we measure things all the time, right? And we totally take it for granted. But have you ever really stopped and tried to imagine a world without it? Today, we've got rulers, scales, clocks. It's all so easy. But the story of how we got here, well, that is one fascinating journey of human ingenuity.
Now, seriously, think about it for a second. How would you cut two pieces of wood to be the exact same length? How would you make sure your walls were perfectly straight? This one simple question gets right to the heart of a massive problem our ancestors had to solve to build, well, everything.
Look, people didn't invent measurement just for fun. The need for it came from the most basic, essential parts of life: farming their fields, building their homes, and trading with their neighbors. And the tools they had to work with? Well, they were literally the stuff they had lying around: the sun and seasons, their own bodies, and even common things like grains of barley.
So, to solve this, early humans had to get really creative, using only what was available to them. And you know what? Their first solutions were surprisingly clever.
For really big distances, forget about miles or kilometers. Instead, a journey might be described as 3 days away. Now that might sound a little vague to us, but it was incredibly practical. It connected the idea of distance directly to the actual human experience of traveling it.
And here's another brilliant example for how they measured land. The acre wasn't some abstract math equation, it came straight from the farm. An acre was simply how much land a team of oxen could plow in one day. The unit of measurement was born directly from daily work.
Okay, so time and labor worked great for the big stuff. But what about smaller things? You know, like the width of a doorway or the length of a piece of cloth. For that, they turned to the handiest ruler they could find, one they carried with them absolutely everywhere. It's kind of wild, but so many of our modern units started out right on the human body. The inch, for instance, was probably based on the width of a man's thumb. Simple, easy, and always there when you needed it.
I mean, the foot, it's a foot. Super obvious, right? You've always got one with you, so you can just pace out a distance anytime, anywhere. It was personal and just made sense.
And the yard? That was often defined as the distance from the tip of your nose to the fingertips of your outstretched arm. Just perfect for measuring out rope or fabric. The human body was basically the original Swiss Army knife.
But you've probably already spotted the massive problem, right? People are not all the same size. My foot is not the same length as your foot. And this created huge problems, especially for trade. Think about a dishonest merchant. He could hire a guy with short arms to measure the cloth he buys, and then a guy with long arms to measure the cloth he sells.
So this chaos, this total lack of consistency, it pushed humanity to its next big idea, moving away from all these personal, different units toward a single, shared standard that everybody could agree on and trust.
And the first solution was actually pretty brilliant. Just pick one person, usually the most important person, the king, and use their body as the official standard for everyone. So the length of the king's arm became the official yard. We even have evidence from 4,000 years ago of a ruler named Gudea of Lagash creating a standard foot. This was the key, creating a single source of truth.
But just having one standard wasn't the whole story. You needed a system that actually worked for people. Remember, there are no calculators here, so the units had to be easy to divide in your head. That's why you see ancient systems using numbers like 12 all the time, because you can divide it by 2, 3, 4, and 6. It made everyday math so much easier.
And the absolute best example of this in action, you got to look at the Egyptian royal cubit. It was a specific, fixed length, about 20.6 inches, and then it was broken down into smaller, related units like palms and digits. This kind of organized, standardized system is a huge reason they were able to build incredible things like the pyramids with such mind-boggling precision.
So, they created standards. They built amazing things. Problem solved, right? Well, not quite. Creating a standard, it turns out, introduced a brand new vulnerability that nobody saw coming. What happens if you lose it?
You see, getting to a reliable standard wasn't this clean, straight line. It was messy. It was a journey that took thousands of years, and it was filled with stops and starts and some pretty major setbacks along the way.
Get this, and this is a completely true story. In 1834, the actual physical metal bars that defined the yard and the pound for the entire British Empire, they were destroyed in a fire. Can you imagine a whole country suddenly losing its definition of length and weight overnight? It just shows you how fragile these physical standards really were.
And this wasn't just some old world problem. In the early 1800s, the brand new United States didn't have one single standard either. Different ports were all using slightly different versions of the pound or the yard. So what did they do? something super practical. In 1832, they just took all the different standards they were using, literally averaged them out, and said, okay, this is the new official one.
So when you look at this whole journey, from using your thumb to relying on oxen to king's arms and even these devastating fires, it tells you something really deep about how we as humans build societies.
Because here's the real takeaway. Measurement isn't really about inches or pounds. It's about agreement. It's a form of social trust. By creating these shared standard units, total strangers could suddenly trade fairly, build massive projects together, and run entire countries. It's one of those quiet, invisible inventions that made our whole complex world possible.
Which kind of leaves us with one last big question to think about. We depend on measurement every day, but it's really just one of many shared understandings we all rely on. So, what other invisible agreements about time or money or even language are holding our modern world together right now without us even noticing?